Welcome to the Fighting For podcast. I'm Joel. This is Tino. And today we're going to be talking about choosing the right people in your corner. But before we start, Tino, would you be willing to start us out with the serenity prayer?
Yeah, no problem. So, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship as a pathway to peace, taking as he did the sinful world as it is, not as I would like it. Trusting that he will make all things right if I surrender to his will, that I may be reasonably happy in this world and supremely happy in the next.
Nice. So when we are talking about this area of the Fighting For prayer, purpose, power, and people, today we focus on what that area of our fight of people does for our sobriety, our goals, our overall health. But I noticed when you were saying that prayer that there was a lot of I.
AI.
It was help me to accept the things I cannot change, the things I can't, so there's a lot of I in there.
Mm-hmm.
What is the people part that even shows up in the serenity prayer? I was thinking about this as you were saying it. And what do we do every class that we lead when we say the serenity prayer?
Say it together.
We say it together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, something about that togetherness too. It makes things a little bit more easier, instead of doing it solo.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I was doing it right now, realized like I'm sitting there like, okay, a little bit more pressure on, then everyone's just kind of saying it together. Something about that numbers, right? In numbers. So
yeah, the big encouragement for today in this podcast is you are not alone. Loneliness is a killer. Literally.
Yeah, I actually read loneliness causes more premature deaths than, obesity, inactivities, high blood pressure, and even poor dieting.
That is crazy.
That is crazy. It just goes to show, though, like we need people in life. We can't do all these things alone. Yeah, we could do some things alone. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying what is that? It's like codependent where you got to have somebody with you at all times. But, being able to know that we need each other in a sense, because I think especially like for us men, we don't like to show certain things and we like tend to bottle things, not really express things. And that can get us to a place of isolation. You know what I mean? Because you don't want to share nothing with nobody. And I mean, the women, they do it too. But I think men struggle with that a lot, dealing with a lot of different people and realizing like, man, some of these guys that they don't have the right person in the corner that they can talk to, that they can release some of these things out. You know what I mean? And it's so helpful when you're able to have that person. This is the reason why we kind of push that, right? In AA, they call it the sponsor, right? Having that sponsor with you, having that person that you can call up and just say, hey, I'm struggling with something right now. I just need someone to talk to, and they're willing to be there, right? So instead of thinking like, oh man, I got no one to call, I got no one to talk to. Nobody cares. I guess I got to deal with this on my own, So I don't know. It's pretty interesting though when you really think about it. Like we as people, I think we were created, right, to be able to interact and connect with people, not to be isolated with just by ourselves, right?
It's crazy when you listed out the things that that loneliness is more of a death risk than, did you say obesity? Inactivity. I mean, that one, CDC is always telling us, Center for Disease Control is always saying it's people being sedentary, sitting around is basically killing us, and that's for you to say loneliness is more of a risk of being alone. But look how many people are so lonely. I mean, it's so easy to get on your phone, You know, you can have all your entertainment right there. You don't need to talk to anybody. You can text them, and we're almost being encouraged with technology. And not that technology is bad. I mean, it can be used for good, and it is, and it can connect us, but people often use it as a replacement. And so it's just a reminder, don't be alone, by choice, because it's bad for you. It's actually bad for you. Depression, anxiety. So, yeah.
So what you're telling me is that I should go kick back with all my old homies and,
Yeah. You're calling out probably what somebody may be taking away from this conversation. And what if they are saying that? What do you say?
That's why we kind of talk about this having the right person in your corner, because when you put yourself in those predicaments of like for me, if I go back and kick back with all my old homies who I used to always kick back with, and maybe they're still smoking, maybe they're still drinking, I could be strong for a while, but that wouldn't be smart of me, right? Because I would, eventually things are going to get tough, and it's around long enough, and, you start doing the stuff, and it all rhymed.
Nice.
But no, in reality though, we tend to do what's around us. There's that saying, show me your friends and I'll show you your future, and it's crazy when I really look back on my past. Everyone who I used to kick back with, they were all doing the same things I was doing. If they were smoking weed, I was smoking weed. If they were selling drugs, I was selling drugs. If they were drinking, I was drinking. Yeah, I said no for a little bit and I kicked back with them, but eventually I end up giving in, right? Because it looks fun, and eventually, we had those bad days and it was just easier to go to, easier to grab, right? So in reality, when you look at it, it's like, yeah, they were there and I didn't feel lonely at the time. But when the party was gone, when the drinks were gone, when the smoke was gone, and I'm back at my house all alone, and I didn't want to go home because, yeah, you know what I mean? It's that loneliness. Because when you go home, when the whole party's gone and you go home and you're stuck with yourself and your thoughts and everything that you're dealing with, I can see how that can eat you alive, So I don't know, just interesting.
Yeah. And who are your real friends? And when we talk about what friendship is, there's loyalty, but when it's built around something that's killing you, what good is that loyalty? Because all it does, it is going to bond you around whatever you're loyal to. But if that thing is killing the relationships, killing the family relationships, you're not going to have anybody at home that you trust. It's like you're always going to have to find out, okay, we got to keep this going, this bad lifestyle, this unhealthy lifestyle, whatever that is, because it's I'm not building all the positive relationships that are there for me when I go home, So choosing the right people in our corner is difficult. We talk to a lot of people who are making great choices. A lot of things are changing for them, and they say, I can't hang around those people anymore. And the next problem that arises is, well, who am I going to hang around? Because now I'm kind of starting over in my social networks. Like, what is there to do? Who am I going to spend that time with? And so we're a lot of times encouraging people, don't give up, especially in the times where you are a little lonely because you're making the right choices. And you will experience some loneliness. So just because you're experiencing loneliness doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. If you're doing the right thing and you're in that middle stage, that's normal. It's normal to go through that. Just keep going and don't go back. I think that's what we're trying to say is don't go back. Don't doubt yourself and say, oh, I'm lonely now. How is this better? I'm going to go back to those relationships because loneliness is a killer. It's like, no, keep going because there's something on the other side.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see people struggling with that. I think that's where the back and forth comes. You know what I mean? Because it's like, oh, well, I'm feeling lonely. Let me go back to what I'm used to, what my brain is wired to, right? Because at the end of the day, we go through these times and yeah, we're so used to going back to, the friends that are smoking, friends that are drinking. It's like, no, you gotta, if you want something different in life, you gotta do something different, right? And you can't expect a new life doing old things. So you gotta start learning, making new friends, going into new environments. Yeah, so I don't know.
Okay, environments is interesting because we were talking earlier about people that are struggling with temptation. And there's the marshmallow test. And I don't know if anybody has heard about the marshmallow test, but this idea where there was this test where they brought children in, and I don't know who they are, but it's somebody. Look it up. Look up the marshmallow test. They brought children in and gave them a test. They put a marshmallow in front of them and said, you can have that marshmallow now and eat it now. Or if you wait 10 minutes, and I can't remember how much the time was but if you wait this amount of time, you can have 2 marshmallows. You double the amount if you just wait. And here's what they did. They noticed and made record of the kids who took the marshmallow right away. I don't need to wait for the second marshmallow. I'm hungry. I want that marshmallow right now, or, And then they made note of the kids who waited to get the second marshmallow. And so now they had 2 marshmallows. Okay, skip ahead. They followed those kids later on in life and they checked back in with them to just see how they were doing in life. How was their school, their careers, their relationships, money management, and who do you think later on in life was just making healthier choices, stronger social networks, doing better with their money, doing well in school? Who would you think?
Who do y'all think?
Doot, doot, doot.
Gave you a little bit of time, but honestly, my thoughts are, probably the one that waited.
Yeah, exactly. And so, okay, so then there's some more studies out about why that is. It is, but it's related to impulsivity. It's like making an impulsive, quick decision. Oh, I'm hungry. I must eat now. Or I'm thinking like, I got to spend the money. I got to spend it now. And the people who say, hey, wait just a minute. You don't have, just because you had that feeling, emotion, temptation, we even call it triggers. Like, can you wait it out? Don't overreact. Don't panic. Wait it out. Make a good decision. And what they're finding is that a lot of it is related to the environment around you. So the kids that chose those marshmallows, they're finding now, a lot of those kids who chose the marshmallows for like, I got to have it now, their environments were actually built like that at home. Like they just had an environment where they were not disciplined. I mean, disciplined in the sense where you're learning to make the right choices and you're holding off on the, maybe the parenting issues where the kids are, being taught how to wait for things, being taught how to not spend their money when they get it, whatever that is. So what that's telling people now is your environment is going to basically determine if you fall into that temptation again. What did somebody say this week? You were talking about, somebody said, if you live in a donut shop.
Ooh, I forget how the saying went. You're going to have to remind me on that. But it was just pretty interesting,
It basically, it was something like, if you live in a donut shop, you're going to eat donuts. I mean, if they're right there all the time, you're going to eat.
I think you can't tell me not to eat donuts and have me live in a donut shop or something like that. Yeah, it was really good though.
Say that again and tell me what that means to you.
Ooh. So you can't tell me to not eat donuts while I live in a donut shop. I'm probably butchering that big time, but the way I see it is like, you can't tell me not to do something when it's like all around me and it's just like, it's there, it's at my reach and I can easily just grab it if I want it. Right. Yeah. So, and
same for people then. So we're talking about people, choose the right people. Well, are we talking about the environment? People are our environment. Like who we are around. What did you say at the beginning? Show me your friends.
And I'll show you your future.
I'll show you your future. So because we have what is called mirroring neurons. And I think we talked about this before, but I act like people. I will start having their mannerisms, the way that they joke. I'll start kind of having that same humor. I act like people that I hang around. And if I'm hanging around people that are struggling in their addiction also, and that's all that I'm hanging around, or that's the majority of who I'm hanging around, it's just a matter of time.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've got to break away from those people. Now, okay, what do you say to somebody? Because we hear this a lot. Well, I want to help somebody else get out of that addicted lifestyle. I can't leave them. Well, okay, if you have kids or you're taking care of somebody, obviously you have to make the decisions where you're always taking responsibility for those who you have responsibility for. But we're talking about where you have a choice. And in most situations, we do have choices. Mm-hmm. So if somebody says, oh, I don't want to leave this person or this friend, I know it's very tempting to be around them. I kind of like, I'm trying to shut off that trigger. So I'm watching them drink, I'm watching them use, but I don't want to leave them in the dust either. What do you tell that person that's still hanging on?
Man, you hear that a lot, to be honest with you, and man, you can't help somebody if you aren't yourself helped. Or how do you help somebody when you aren't there yet as well too? You're gonna basically put fuel to the fire, right? You know what I mean? Just, I don't know. It's crazy, but I understand. But at the same time, like, you got to get yourself where you need to be. It sounds selfish at times because you don't want to leave people behind. Maybe these are people that's been with you for a long time that, when you were at your lowest, they were right there with you. When you didn't have nothing, they were right there with you and they're still supporting you mentally, right? But in reality, when it comes to recovery, you got to put yourself first sometimes. I know that sounds selfish, but that doesn't mean that you forgot about them and left them in the dust. How can you help somebody if you're not where you need to be at, right? So being able to get yourself where you need to be at, get the help that you need, get those days in that you need. And what are those days? How long is that? A month? 2? For me personally, I think it would have to be over a year, And for some people, that's like, oh, that's a long time. I can't leave them. What's going to happen? And you'll come to realize, because I notice a lot of people, what happens is that they get so worried about the next person that they put themselves back in that position. I don't want to leave them, because of XYZ. But in reality, you're putting yourself in that position and now you guys are just tag teaming that whole thing, right? Because a year does seem like a long time. But when those days start going by and month goes by, 2 months go by, and you get to yourself where you need to be, you can be that inspiration for them, right? To be able to say that, oh, they're a year sober. I can do that too. We were right there in that same spot doing the same exact things. What are they doing that I'm not? Oh, they got out the environment. Oh, they made different choices. Oh, they switched the environment. Oh, they got new friends now. You know what I mean? And one thing you'll come to realize that what a lot of people do is they see people and they're like, well, I'm all they have. I'm their only help. But what I've come to realize, and when you let people be, they're going to find a way one way or the other, whether it be through you or whether it be through somebody else, they're going to find a way, whether it's, you think about it, really think about it, separate yourself, test it for a little bit, separate yourself from them. They're going to figure things out. You know what I mean? So,
man, that's a great thought, because another piece of this is what we call codependency. You mentioned that earlier. Codependency, another way to think about it is an enabling. You ever heard somebody say you're an enabler? Is that you continuing to hang around that person is giving them a sense of security so that they don't feel the need to change. They're like, hey, I still have you, You're still here. I know you're not using, but at least you're not leaving me, and we're not trying to put people into a panic mode, but at the same time, like what you said, it may feel selfish that you have to start taking care of yourself so that you can help take care of other people in due time. But you got to take care of yourself. So many people have talked about a recovery program as the selfish program, because it's almost like if you think it's selfish to take care of yourself, then go ahead and think about it like that. Go ahead and think about the whole program like it's a selfish program, because that's what you've got to do. And it's not selfish. Matter of fact, it's the most unselfish thing to do. It's the most selfless thing to start taking care of yourself as God wants you to take care of yourself. It's putting him first, really.
Yeah, think about it. When you're in your addiction, who are you focused on? Self, right? I need to get high. I need a drink. I need to do this. Oh man, they're coming against me because I'm doing this. You know, it's all about I. When you start seeking outside of I, because in the recovery program, you know, especially like the 12 steps, you carry that message on. The 12 step is, you know, you carry that message on to basically go help another person, right? There's no selfishness in that. Yeah, you had your selfish time where you need to get yourself right, where you had to focus on self. But in reality, it's you're given that time to be able to give back later on, right?
Codependency is enabling somebody else to continue to live their destructive lifestyle and then becoming yourself dependent on their destructive lifestyle. You're too afraid to tell them that you're going to leave. And so you actually end up enabling them to continue to live like that so that you can still have them around. And so really what it becomes is you are depending on their habit for your own happiness. So let's not lie to ourselves that when we are just trying to be nice to somebody, like, oh, I don't want to separate, it's going to hurt them, or, I don't want them to feel lonely. Let's not lie to ourselves. That's codependency, and it's actually enabling them to continue to live their destructive lifestyle, and it's actually enabling me to continue to live the lifestyle I say I don't want, but actually my actions are showing differently. So it's just about being truthful, separating from those people that you have to separate from. And then the next challenge is start finding the people that are healthy. And that may take a little bit of work, but and that's another thing is don't lie to yourself to say they're not out there. They are there. There are those people. That's why we're doing this podcast. That's why we do a lot of the work that we're doing is to remind people you are not alone. There are churches out there. Are they perfect? No. Like families aren't perfect. Churches aren't perfect. But if you jump into some of those places and you just start looking, God always makes a way. There's this saying, where God shuts a door, he always opens a window. Yeah.
Nice. You think about it too, when you're trying to seek for that new group, the people in your corner, a lot of times people will reject them because they're not hearing what fits what they want, and, in the Bible, it talks about as iron sharpens iron, as a one person sharpens another. Think about that. When there's iron, the two knives that come together, right? And they sharpen, there's sparks, there's sparks that happen. And a lot of times we don't want those sparks. Those sparks, like, when we talk about it, it's like, the friction, going against what in my mind, this is what I know I should be doing, but somebody telling me something different, right? Being able to go work through that. A lot of people don't want to do that. It's like, because in their mind, it's like, well, I got this figured out. I know I need to do this, this, and this. And then you can get some advice to somebody else, say, no, that's not smart. You got to do it this way. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying to bow down to what everybody says, but when those two opposites begin to happen, you begin to realize, okay, maybe I do need to do something different, right? And a lot of people don't want to deal with that. Oh, they don't agree with me, so I'm just going to go back over here because these guys agree with me over here, and these guys make me feel good about myself. But this guy right here, he's telling me what I need to hear, but I don't want to hear it, But that's how, when it comes to finding those people in your corner, you're going to have those people that are going to sit there and tell you like, hey, yeah, you're doing good here, but you need to watch out right here. These are the things that you need to straighten up on. Because if you do that, what happens the last time you did that? Oh, I relapsed. Oh, I did this. Oh, I did that. And they're just that corner man saying, hey, I've seen this happen before, or you need to cut this out because I've seen it before and you need
corner
something
man.
different.
Explain corner man. For those people who don't know when you said corner man, that's referring to terminology.
So you think about a boxing match, right? And they're in a fight. You got to think of your recovery as in, it's a fight. It's a fight. And you got to have those people in your corner. You think about an actual boxing match. They have corner man. They have the cut man. They have the corner man. The corner man watches out like, hey, you need to watch his left hook. He's, you're slipping too far this way and he's catching it. He's seeing it, those kind of things. He kind of helps guide you through the fight. When we talk about a corner man in recovery, it's the same thing, right? You know, look what happens when you did that last time. Do you want to do that again? You know, you've done this before. You know, you don't want to go down that same cycle again. You know, it just kind of brings a little bit of clarity, and it helps at the end of the day. It helps you win that fight.
So finding a sponsor in other programs, they'll call it a sponsor, is somebody who's been through this. They found their sobriety. That may not be easy to find somebody like that, but keep at it. They're out there. You might be that next person for somebody actually. So we're calling that corner man, that coach, that person and the actual word in boxing is a second. It's like they're not in the fight, but they are kind of in it with you mentally, and they're going to be calling out, directions. One of the things I love what you said about friction, because we often run away from problems and like, oh, they're not, they're talking bad about other people, and we do have to be somewhat selective. Obviously, we're talking about choose the right people in your corner. Nobody's perfect. So once you find a community, or you find those people who are making the right choices, the choices that you're wanting to make, you're going to have to still have patience with them. You can't expect perfection because none of us are perfect. There is one perfect person. There is one. And that's what makes us Christian or not Christian, if you believe that this one person is perfect. And that's Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, trust in Jesus as the only perfect person, you get a relationship with God. You get a relationship with other imperfect people because now you're patient with them. And they're not perfect. I'm not perfect. It just gives you more patience. God fills that part in your heart that wants that perfect relationship. And God is that person. Jesus is that way to God. But then that frees us up to have relationships and closeness with others without expecting perfection. But still, you want to be walking that road and that path with those who are sharing your vision and are going the direction you're going, not against you. So, I'll say one more thing is that in counseling, the number one method of counseling that is so helpful for people to go through, like that, the number one thing that helps is talking to somebody. Just having somebody to talk to. So once again, we come to this idea of you have to choose the right people in your corner because God made us to need those relationships with others. And so we need that. You just need to have the right people because otherwise they're either going to pull you down or pull you up. So take the time to choose the right people in your corner as if you're the boxer and they're there for you. And then you can be that for them as well.
Yeah, hopefully you guys are encouraged by that. It's if you ever need anything, reach out. You see us around. Don't hesitate. We're here. So
awesome. Thanks for joining the Fighting For podcast. We'll see you next time.